Welcome, Tiny Hands Big Dreams, here in southern Ecuador with a generalized update of all things Ecuador, homesteady, our life. Not so much our life, mostly about Ecuador. And there's just like a bunch of small bits and points of info and errata that aren't their own video. We're going to lump it all together. If you're interested in possibly moving here, excellent. Listen up for a few minutes. We're going to go through some randomness of our 3 years on the ground. We do that a lot. Pricing. Let's talk about some pricing. We have seen what has been going on in the U.S. Through the internets. So we have the internets.
Which, funny enough, our internet price has gone down.
That's gone down. We have satellite internet, and that's dropped to $45 a month, which is $15 is a lot to us. That's cool.
I have no idea why. I don't have any information as to why.
Rarely does a company ever reduce their price. Probably they're just trying to get more users. So that was neat. We've seen, let's see, so when we moved here 3 years ago, things like eggs. Eggs were $3. They might have even been $2.75.
Yeah, there are different qualities of eggs. They're not all created equal.
We're talking about commodity eggs.
Yeah.
Commodity, they're just egg. They're not great.
Come in giant truck egg.
Chickens on giant-y farm.
Building thing, I don't know. Eggs.
Yeah. They might have been $2.75, $3.
No, that's not a dozen.
No, that's for 30.
Cubeta.
A cubeta, square. Or flat. Or and then they've crept up over the 3 years. They broached $3.75 for a minute some months ago, and they seem to have pulled back to $3.50. So, but inflation is kind of what that gets into. It is here, but it is sort of minor compared to what is going on in other places in the world. Beef prices have gone up slightly. They $2.50. Now we're at $2.75 a pound.
Nothing outrageous.
Nothing outrageous. That is whatever part of the cow that you point at. Sometimes they'll charge more for the tenderloin or certain pieces. Some of those pieces are a little bit less. There is some places that differentiate, but otherwise some butchers are just, you point at the trunk, they whack it off. So that's kind of neat. Grocery related, we've seen in general a rise in grocery prices, from avocados to oranges.
When we say grocery, we basically mean fruits and vegetables.
Fruit, we don't buy anything processed.
No. And I think everything sort of shelf stable that we buy, I don't think rice has gone up. I don't think sugar
It's gone up a little bit.
Has it gone up a little bit?
It's gone up a little bit. We're paying 15, well, it's between the low quality to the highest quality. So you're at $13 to $16 for a 25-pound bag. And I feel like that's come up just a little bit. We buy corn for the pigs. Corn is 20 to 22, is as high as $23 per 100 pounds if you just want whole kernel. If you want it ground, it's the same price, but it's only 90 pounds, which they keep the difference as their profit for grinding it, I guess. So we're buying.
And has that then gone up in price? You're usually the one to buy that. So
yeah, I feel like earlier on it was more like $19. So we've crept up a little bit on corn, and that's all locally produced in Ecuador.
So that is probably partially weather related.
Yeah.
You get into why the prices.
The fruits and the vegetables. Previous couple of years there was bounties.
Like 2 years ago, when we moved to this property, we are in the Orient. These are rural southern Ecuador pricing. It's not going to be the same in the city. When we moved here 2 years ago from Loja, it was cheaper and it was way more options.
Yeah. And then there was trucks that would show up with just pickup truck, heap to as high as they could stack it of something, of mangoes, of pineapples, of...
It was a good hot season.
There was all the things, and it was cheap.
And then we had a year of just rain.
Right. So
rain.
We usually go, rainy season, dry season, and then it just never
Over dry season.
We just never dry. Just kept raining through the dry season, and that was the La Nina tail thing. Something.
And we've noticed a lot of differences in not only what's available at the market, but what the prices are.
There's a lot of stuff from Peru, Chile, Argentina in the market now. A lot of the staples that we're looking at.
A lot less local and a lot more imported, which is then, of course, higher pricing.
Apples to oranges to mangoes to things. And you look at them and they've had a truck ride. They got some flat spots.
And they're more expensive being imported.
Yeah. Yeah, everything imported is more expensive. Weather. So we missed a dry season related to weather.
Life.
Which seems to have come back now to the way it was when we moved here a couple of years ago. We are now a month into dry season, which people tell us is supposed to be dry and cool. It is hot.
Yeah. So there's two things. I mean, if you have not followed along with us, we complained for a year about the rain. And it rained, 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 and it rained. And nothing would grow, and it was cool, and it was wet, and it was muddy, and it was a miserable mess. And we couldn't make progress on anything.
And funguses and molds and mosses abound.
And we couldn't build a house, and it was a mess. And then one day it did not rain. And a month later it has not rained. Yeah. Really in any significant way.
We've had some like little
sprinkles.
And then the ground dries out 10 minutes later. And we're back to sunny and hot.
It has been hotter than normal.
In the shade, it's not so bad. We had the last week was in the high 80s. Last week
we might have hit 90.
Yeah, this week. Now we're back to like the low 80s, mid 80s.
No, that was yesterday only.
Okay.
Sorry, it was a lovely cooler day. There's a website I found that is really good for weather. It's really good for temperature too. It's interesting if you are looking at where in Ecuador you might want to live, or anywhere in the world. It's actually really useful to watch the temperature.
I'm gonna put the URL.
And I'll link it below, since that's my job. It works out. It's really nice. It's actually really helpful. We have been getting Brazil's heat and fire.
Oh, the smoke. Just depending on where the wind comes from.
Super gross.
So if you look at the temperature, and this is a fun one, look at the temperature map of the entire Earth. And this was part of our where to move. You look at South America, and you will see a swath of purpley red colors, meaning, ew.
So hot.
So hot.
Talking like 112 hot.
And swamp. And then there's this strip of blue mirror image on this side, which is the mountain range on the
Andes, on the
west coast. I'm trying to flip everything. And there's this strip of blue which is high up in the mountains. And then the only real livable, comfortable places is the edges between the blue and the purple.
That's where we are.
And you can sort of like move back and forth 50 miles in the like range. Of all of like South America, it's only those margins that are the real pleasant temperatures.
At least to us.
Yeah.
That being said, we have gotten warmer than I enjoy. Warmer than is normal.
The afternoons get sweltering.
Yeah. It still cools off at night though. And that's important.
Been a drier heat. Yes, always cools off. We've never had a hot night where we were just laying there dying of heat.
No.
So that's pleasant. Pause. All right. Sorry, there's onions on the stove that have to be stirred. It's important. It's part of life. All right, so that's weather. It has changed. It has sort of fluxed back to where we started. We have gone from perma-spring to summer, which will last some months.
We don't know how long it will last either.
Right.
This could last a year.
It is also why we picked somewhere inherently slightly moister, because other places are having where they went from dry with just a touch of water to, if they flux too dry, then they're just...
So even Loja, we went to Loja this week.
Yeah.
And the water is very much lacking there.
Yeah,
the river is...
Loja is having a mad drought. They have water restrictions. They've had all sorts of problems with power in the country because of the drought moving around.
Yeah.
And then there's us.
And while it is dry, we still have our water.
Yeah, the water never goes away so far.
So far.
So we have, solar power, which even when the neighbors are like, oh, there's no power, and I'm like, there's at my house. I don't know.
This weather is very good for the solar.
It's great. Oh, the battery's full by like 11:30. Like, and then I'm like, I don't know, use some more. Let's go vacuum the driveway.
Use it up.
Yeah, it's free. So that was weather. We touch on crime. There's been odd errata accumulation of news and stories and things. This morning, interesting. We had the National Police roll up my driveway.
The dog alerted, and we're like, what? Oh,
Yeah, the dog starts going nuts.
Vehicle thing. And I'm like, that's a police car. What?
It's never happened.
Not
First time.
Here.
And then I look, and it's our neighbor, and he's come up with them, and he's like, oh no, it's okay. Like, they're friends. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. We just want to be left alone. 3 national police, and they came up and they said hi, and they like wanted to look around and like see my house. I'm like, you could have told me, I would have cleaned up. No, it's gross. Why are you here? And so they came up in the driveway and they like poked around, and he showed off our septic system because they just think that's the bee's knees.
So funny.
It's cool to them, and I explained like, yeah, we don't want to pollute the river thing, like that's a disservice to our neighbors. And he was talking about they're basically just driving up every road and meeting every person and every neighbor in every little finger valley. Something about organized crime and seeing where things are. Now, I have a couple of sources on this. I have a friend in Zumba who tells me things are getting pretty sketchy there. And it seems to be that there is an organized crime thing going on that is attracted to the illegal gold mining. Now, illegal gold mining is really just you're mining gold without the official permits or land ownership, perhaps.
Because I don't think anymore that you can mine. You can't be a small
artisanal miner.
Artisanal. There are no more artisanal miners. They took that ability away. So now, unless you are a giant mining company, you can't mine for gold here.
And officially, there's 2 of those. Yeah. But if you drive from here to Zamora, the entire river is mounds of rock, and there's excavators everywhere. Like, the whole river is disturbed.
Not good.
Where they've been mining, and apparently that's all illegal. But they sort of get away with it, and I guess every so often they get their equipment seized. These are huge operations. Like,
when I heard the illegal mining, I thought it would be like a few people. Like,
you have 20 pieces of equipment. You have huge pumps with like diesel motors and things and stuff, and a crew of like 50 people. Like, this is a huge operation. You have your own fences and gates and roads that you had to put in.
And yet it's illegal. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so I guess there's a constant battle, and you get away with it for a while. But there's a ton of it down in Zumba, and that's attracted the cartel, who he says is very sophisticated.
And that's by the Peruvian border.
Right, and he said they run it very much like a government organizational thing of stuff. They have technology, they have a hierarchy, they have training, they have things, and they come in and they rob the miners. And then there's the occasional other crime that comes with you have a criminal organization that is sort of there. Ugh.
Yuck.
Okay. Ick. It is not here where we are, in our little town, our little valley, our thing. It apparently is another one, which if you drive all the way to town and you go down the highway a little bit and you go up a different valley, there's another little town called Paquisha. And the police who were here today said it's really bad there because there's gold.
And I don't know, to be fair, I don't know what he meant by really bad. Like, I don't know what exactly the crime is.
There is organized crime activity in that area. I'm like, oh. That's actually here out in the Orient, at least in that one little spot where there is, that's getting again towards the Peru border up into the mountains. Huh. Haven't been there. Don't know.
Yeah.
It's secondhand information from a policeman. But there is a battle going on. They're trying to get in and root out and find the organized crime they're trying to push back. There's corruption issues, and we talked about that for a few minutes. He spoke some English, so that was kind of neat. And they poked around for a minute, and they realized we're just some silly gringos out here with some animals at the end of the valley, and we pose no threat to anybody, and that was sort of good enough for them. So they went on their way.
But you did get his number.
I did. I got his phone number.
It's like if you call 911, we come.
We're the ones that show up. I'm like, okay, well, it's good to know. I'll probably like message him and say hi and ask some other questions just as be familiar with a local cop. What else we got?
Well, we don't have any firsthand knowledge of any crime because we chose where we lived intentionally.
Yeah.
We got secondhand information about safety in Loja.
Oh God! All right, Loja, which we've always said is a very safe city. We love it.
As far as the city goes,
we could let the kid just run free.
Well, you might. I have distrust in large amounts of people. The more people you have, the more chance of something happening.
So going south down towards Zumba, you have all the little towns that go out that way. And he said south of Loja, there was actually the previous week a couple of murders in Vilca. We didn't even hear about that. We don't have a good source of
like Vilca Malacatos area.
There's message boards and things, but they're closed. If you don't live there, they don't let you in. So
it makes it really hard to get information.
Yeah. Or at least like accurate on the ground. I like crowdsourced information. I like to hear a lot of different opinions about a thing, about people, like they saw it, they say something immediately. They didn't like start to think about a story and a point of view and a perspective. No, it's just tell me exactly what it is right now. I like that. We don't really have that for there. So there's been crime that way. But Loja, so our dentist, who is a fabulous dentist, we like the guy. So we go up to have our a yearly visit of cavities filled and teeth cleaned and things like that. And he goes, yeah, it's been a rough week. I'm like, oh, well, a couple weeks. There's a big festival, the Reine del Cisne.
We'll just go with your pronunciation. It's great. We'll just go with that.
Yeah, the Swan Queen. It's like a child figurine in robes and dresses and a scepter. It's very important in the religion. It's kind of a local Christian belief. I don't know a lot about it. So huge festival.
A month-long festival.
Yeah, there's a pilgrimage from a temple somewhere, and they march on the roads all the way to Loja.
But because it's a regional, local thing, it attracts a lot of people.
Oh yeah, Loja is shut down, crowded, crazy. It's
festival all month long kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a big deal. So he goes, yeah, I was out, and I was, I was there at the festival, and then he goes, the next thing I know, I wake up in the big civic stadium, laying on the grass, staring at the sky. And I forget the drug that he thinks he said, but he goes, he thinks he was date rape drugged or something. And car's gone, phone's gone, wallet's gone. He's a decently sized dude. He's
yeah. Yeah.
Dunno. That's it. It's all gone. Ho! Whoa! Ugh. Icky.
Yeah. Icky.
Big festivals, lots of people from outside, lots of...
When you get a lot of, outsiders the wrong word, but non-locals, that's when criminals are going to take advantage of them
and they can blend in with all that.
Yep.
So a normal, where we are in our little, a very familial society, everybody knows everybody else. I go down and I'm starting to get to know all the people in the local town thing. Everybody knows everybody else.
Yeah.
And they know you're okay. When you have a huge influx in big cities of all these other people, you have to treat everyone nice. Something you don't really say you're suspicious looking here. Everybody's different.
And then when you have a festival that attracts
so
many more people. Yes.
So that exists. I know I've been warned repeatedly in the markets of Loja about my phone. People have stopped me. They're like, oh, your phone's in your pocket. Don't do that. There's pickpockets.
In your back pocket.
Yeah.
You always put it in your back pocket.
Which I do anyway. My wife tells me, I watch your butt very closely. Anyone else touches it,
you can't
they
tell
will
people
die by my boot. I'm I just want to see that. I'm going to leave my phone hanging out. Oh. What? No, that'd be fun. You can stomp them.
I would.
I know. So yeah, my friend also said, he goes, it seems like the police are doing a good job, and they're arresting people and their things, and they're trying to route this out. But there's problems in the judicial where, while they're arresting them, they're just letting them out again, and somehow it's not that the process is sort of not functioning correctly. From again, a secondhand conversation. I don't know. Like I said, where we are,
no one has ever warned you about a phone in your pocket.
No.
At the market.
I drive the little van to town. Like, I have a little money purse thing that I keep all of our money for the market in, and it just sits in the center console. I leave the windows down. I leave my phone sometimes in the car. The door's open, keys in it. I go into stores. I get stuff. I come out. Sometimes I'll just open the door because I'm going to buy a sack of corn, and I'll just leave the whole slider door open as I'm shopping. Yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So that's locally versus the larger area. But again, like anywhere else, are you close to a big city where these kind of things happen? In the U.S., everybody knows some cities so many hours away where, like, yeah, shenanigans happen. So that was, let's see, we've done crime, weather, some pricing.
Is there anything else that we think is interesting?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Totally unrelated.
Oh, no.
We actually have a little interesting upcoming video that I won't talk about too much, but it's a new camera, like security camera thing. Wasn't actually for really security. It was for other reasons. It's a teaser. Watch for that video in a next couple of weeks. Yeah, we got one before it was released. It was like a whole deal. We're playing with it, having a lot of fun. Excited about that.
Yeah.
Then there's...
Well, I guess I want to touch on, just because we're here, we had asked in another video, and for the life of me, I can't remember when or which video, it's been a long week, of if there's any interest in us doing any sort of membership, Patreon sort of thing. Now, there was some interest. I don't know how much, honestly.
Right. So, and there's a lot of conversations that we cannot touch.
Or we can touch, but it's just a superficial. And then we're like, oh, should we say that?
This is like getting invited to your child's preschool class to teach as like a special day thing, and you look around and you're like, I'm going to sanitize everything I say today. That's literally what we have to do for the medium that we're on.
And we know that, and we accept that, but it is what it is.
We would like to talk further on...
There's a lot of really good conversations that we could have.
Information that we could pass forward, things that we have found out.
Experiences.
That are verboten. Forbidden?
The list is long.
So, if you're interested, please at least say you're interested. It's a Patreon. It would be a paid thing.
It wouldn't be, though. So that's why I was getting to.
Okay.
It would not be a Patreon.
It would be not a Patreon.
So that's what I wanted to touch on. I spent a lot of hours researching this. I went down a long, deep rabbit hole of membership type of platforms. Started with Patreon because that's what everyone just sort of says. It's kind of like people say Kleenex. It's not all the Kleenex brand. So Patreon, as an actual website, we will not be using. I read the guidelines, the community guidelines, very much on par with YouTube. Very many of the same things are forbidden to speak on.
And there was articles about, there was even a political cartoonist out of like Argentina or something, just boom, closed, all your things canceled, no appeal, to just you're gone. You said something politically against somebody.
So because of that, it wouldn't actually help us that much. We wouldn't be able to say anything there that we can't hear. Now, I know people use Patreon. They are fine. They get away with it. We do not want to be on a platform where we have to get away with saying things. And
we are always under the threat of, if we say this thing, that could be totally taken.
So I went through the list and I looked at all of the guidelines for everything I could find. Now, Substack I use for my writing. Substack has what I think is probably the best community guidelines.
It's like one page.
And
it's basically don't be an arsehat.
Don't be an arsehat. Don't be provably violent.
Right.
So
not just like violent speech, provably violent, like in like an intense way.
Yeah,
like
it was great. Unfortunately, Substack, it doesn't work for what we want to do. It has its own flaws. It doesn't have a tier system.
It's not the right structure of platform.
It's just not quite right for us. So the best thing I found so far was, I don't know how to say it, Podia? I don't know. It's imperfect in other ways, but I think it is probably our best option. It has a pretty lax guideline, and it should allow us to do what we want to do. We could have different tiers for different things that we would offer. We could do like a workshop. We could do a one-on-one for certain
So even
things.
like
There's
home butchering,
a lot of options.
You just, man, talk about things you can't do on the YouTube. And we did one, and then it was immediately flagged, and then it came back as...
came back, its views were so terrible.
It came back as like, oh no, you're okay, you didn't violate a guideline, but it then did not ever promote said video, and it just crashed and burned. Like, wow.
And we could actually do a full video where we actually showed everything in full detail.
Which people have asked for.
And there are things we've talked about doing of like a one-on-one if you wanted to butcher an animal for the first time and you just need someone to call and be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
You're like, oh, not a problem. You got this, you got that, you need this, what you're doing here, like you're stuck, not a problem. Or sometimes just to get going, it helps to have some instruction.
Or for like solar, you could potentially put up some
more
in-depth solar videos and information. It would be a way for us to better provide information and be able to monetize it.
Yeah, or things in the medical.
Lots. Oh yeah.
Which you can't touch with a 10-foot pole on the YouTube.
So that's just, I just sort of wanted to give an update to that.
If you're interested,
on it, but it's going to take a long time to put a website
say you're
together.
interested. Also, we have to put like a value to doing all these extra videos for a small audience if people want to pay for it. Tell us what you're interested in, what it's worth to you.
Yeah.
You know, and while information is free, good information, uncensored information is actually more useful, and everything that's out there is seemingly censored in one way or another, or opinionated to try to drive you to a product, a thing.
Yeah. And we want to be fair. We're not asking some sort of crazy amount of money. I've seen somewhere I think it's a bit high.
There's some craziness out there.
We just want to be able to provide more information without the censorship of the YouTube.
Yeah. And it may get into all sorts of things. We could get into, you know, chicken coops, the structural plan things. We could get into.
We probably can't ever sell a physical product, given where we are. It's complicated, but virtual products.
Yes.
Not come with word for virtual products. We could do if that is of interest.
Decades of experience and
hey, I'm not that
learning
old.
And I was talking about me.
I know. Yeah.
So there. Sort of an overall update on things here on the ground, what's going on with us. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was interesting. Let us know in the comments, and hope you have a great day. Let's get into it.
You're going to say let's get it on. I was like, well, that's
let's
different.
Let's get it on.
You done.
Mm-hmm.
You're like you.